Welcome to Pit's Purpose. My name's Cody. I'm here with my co-host Derek. Feel like this has been a long time coming. We've been trying to record this my testimony. Certain things went wrong, computer technical difficulties before, and
Sickness,
illness, all sorts of different stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to get to know you guys a little better, or let you guys get to know me at least, right? So I think I'm just gonna get into it, and Derek's gonna stop me as we go, ask us questions.
Cody, I've known you for a bit now. I've heard your testimony a few times. I don't know if I'm going to hear anything new, but let's get it out to the world, man.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It changes every time. I have to do it so often through work and just around the building. It's good. It's healing every time that I tell it. So, my name's Cody Michael Haig. I was born on May 16th, 1991 in Red Deer, Alberta. My childhood was, I guess, as normal can be, really. My parents, they argued a lot. They ended up splitting up later down the road, and that being a good thing, I think, for them and their relationship. But grew up playing hockey. That kind of became like a big identity for me.
I'm just going to, as we go along, I'm going to point out the differences that we have. Because you say you had a normal childhood. I grew up in a Christian home, so probably vastly different. But you say normal. What is normal?
Yeah, I mean, like,
expand on that.
Yeah, I guess there wasn't it was, I wasn't mistreated, or everything was good for me for the most part. I'm an only child, no brothers or sisters, so left to my own devices quite a bit. Started staying home alone, at a young age, but a pretty resourceful guy. Playing hockey, with dad. Started skating, I think, around 4 years old, and then my first team would have been with Dynamite. You're 5 or 6 years old. Back then, I think they call it U6 now. It would be Dynamite is what it was back in our day. So yeah, I'm 34 years old, soon to be 35. But yeah, as like I said, started playing hockey, and that's kind of where a lot of my really good friendships started blossoming. Took me through high school, and up until I started drinking and getting into my addiction. But when we're talking about recovery, we talk about things that have happened to you that cause you pain, whether it's loss or whether it's just situations, or it's abuse, or it's trauma. There's many different things, and that can kind of lead to drinking. It's not the drink that we're addicted to. It's actually the solution in a lot of the ways to cover the pain. And I think there's a lot of stuff that kind of started around the age of 9 with loss in my family. I was pretty close with my grandpa. My mom and I spent a lot of time out at my grandparents' acreage. My grandfather was an oil field guy. He had a couple different companies that he owned, and he was always on the road. But I remember I'd be out there, and I'd hear the big diesel dually come in the driveway, and I'd run out and meet him, and I'd hop in the passenger seat, and we'd be going to the Lucky Dollar to get some pink grapefruit juice. Just good times with Grandpa. He bought me quads, and it was a little bit different. I was born in a city, I guess as big of a city as Red Deer is, nothing compared to Calgary, but still city life. Wasn't doing much like that. So the quadding was cool. He excavated a track and stuff out back, and my mom was his firstborn child. I was the first grandkid, and I was the only boy. So it was the first kind of boy that he had. So that was neat, to have that relationship. And, I remember my mom always picked me up from school, and I remember the day pretty vividly. I think it was near the end of grade 4. My timeline's a little screwed up on when exactly it was, but I think I was 9, about to be 10, or just turned 9, heading into that 10-year-old year. And it was, so I was playing at the playground like I always do, and I remember her pulling up in the old Pontiac van, and then not very long after, my dad pulled up behind in the truck, and my dad's like, "Cody, go back and play on the playground." And as after a little time passing, I remember hearing my mom just start bawling. I could hear from across the park kind of deal, and that was my dad delivering the news that my grandfather had passed away. So that was kind of like a shock. He was young. He was 56 years old. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, or I wouldn't have known at that age. He had been struggling with medications and stuff like that. And he had pain, and he committed suicide, which I didn't find out till later in life. I wasn't told when I was that age that that's what it was. So that was a kind of a shock, and it was a really hard thing on my mom, right? I mean, at 56, nobody really is expecting that their dad's going to die, and so from there, it was a kind of a season of loss, I would say, coming up in it around Christmas time. It was either late November, sometime in there. My great grandmother, who I was blessed to have a great relationship with. I love talking about Granny Day because it was pretty special. Not many young boys get to spend every Friday night at their great grandmother's house, and she didn't have much. Like, we'd ride the city bus around the town of Red Deer, and just for something to do. I'm sure it would have been just like when the city bus first came out. I can't imagine there was the need for a city transit in Red Deer for very long before that. And I used to play, like, with my hockey cards. I had one of them Wayne Gretzky hockey tables with the sticks on the end of it, right? And I'd pull my net out and I'd use a Lego head as a puck, and I'm shooting the cards, and my granny would be playing that with me, or we'd go over to her friend Viola's house and play tile rummy. It was just good old times. And so she got sick, and she ended up passing away from leukemia later on that year, which was, a little bit easier, I guess, to understand, because she was older. She wasn't doing well. I got to see her a few times near the end, and it was, tough to see her failing. But one of those, with age, it's kind of a blessing in some ways when they go. And then that time kind of led into my parents split up not very long after that. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Like, they fought a lot. There was a lot of time when they were out in the garage arguing or doing whatever, going for drives, and I was kind of sitting there waiting, wondering what was going on. And I was fairly perceptive, so, like, I knew it might not have been the healthiest of relationships. And I think looking back on it, they probably should have never been together. So it was a little bit tough when that happened, but it was really, again, another thing on my mom. So in that time, she lost her dad, her grandmother, and her relationship. And I touch on that with mom because it was a lot of things that kind of tied into a depression and stuff like that. And then kind of the big kind of traumatic experience, I guess, would have been when my mom and I were moving. So my mom we were living in a rental house of my grandmother's. And when we had finally gotten our place, my Aunt Jody and her 3 boys were down to help us move. My Aunt Ashley, my mom's 2 sisters, and just everybody was there kind of helping us out. And Teddy, Jody's 14 months old son, was sleeping in the van as we were walking by all the time, checking on him. It wasn't something like he was just left unattended. It was, he was a wiry little guy, and he woke up and sometime just before we were about to leave, and he flipped himself out of the car seat and he strangled himself on the seatbelt, and he ended up passing. It was I'll never forget the events of that day, how things went on. And we were very close to the hospital where we were. So instead of waiting for an ambulance, my dad was actually still there helping us move, even though it was like a breakup and whatnot, which is kind of a testament to the man that he is. And it was, my mom gave Teddy CPR all the way down to the hospital, and inevitably, tough word. It was too late. And, I was the one who opened the van door. I was there with my cousin Brooklyn and, the boys behind. And, it was just a terrible, terrible thing to kind of behold. I remember, like, Jody and Brad are such a strong couple, and this time around in recovery, they've been, instrumental in me getting to where I'm at, and they took me in and stuff like that, which I'll get into later. But they're people of faith, and in the first part of my story, you're not going to hear a lot of talk about God, right? It wasn't a thing where I was going to church or I had any real idea about what Jesus, what faith was, right? So,
Can we just go back to that? That's probably, to me, what stands out the most that I've heard in your story. I've heard it several times, and that's what sticks out the most to me, man. Like, I've never experienced anything like that. I did save a 5-month-old baby's life. That's the closest thing remotely close to what I could consider relating, but that's a story I haven't told yet. That and your grandfather's suicide, both of those type of things I've never experienced in my life. I've never lost anyone really close to me.
Yeah.
Would you say very traumatic? Like, do you think that
It's-
carried out through your life?
I don't I've said in lots of different times, I think it was good that it happened when I was younger. Like, if I would have been 15, 16, a little bit more emotionally developed in that sense, it could have drugged me down even faster and harder. Even in that moment, like it was awful, like losing grandpa, and just like that whole time, the whole Teddy thing was just kind of a shock to go through. Like, you never really expect something like that to happen. I don't know how much, like that's why I bring it up. Like, when we're talking about trauma and stuff, like that would have been my traumatic experiences. Like, but I don't know if I can directly attribute it to that causing me to drink Paul. It was tough stuff, but like,
Yeah, absolutely.
the way I look at it, I don't know.
Yeah, I asked because when we go through program here, they're like, a lot of times the root cause is their childhood trauma, and to me that just sticks out.
Yeah. That's why I bring it up. I think I can't tell my life story without talking about that stuff, because sure, it's there. It's stuff that I've definitely thought about. It was something like I wrote poems about each death in school and stuff like that. And, I think I addressed it at least a little bit with my parents and my mom. And, I think kind of that year and a half, 2 year chunk of time when it all kind of happened was a really tough time for my mom. I think it led into, if you look at it, like I'm sure there was a bit of guilt on her end with Teddy. Jody wouldn't have been there had we not been moving. Plus, with grandpa and grandma, like my grandfather and her father and grandma in that time, like that's a lot of loss. And, she had to wear that on her shoulders. And I think that kind of broke down led to her kind of breaking down a little bit and falling into a depressive state. And, it's been kind of tough. And that's kind of maybe a little bit more of where it was with addiction. Like, with me growing up as a strong-willed guy, I didn't listen to mom. We started fighting quite a bit. She stopped working as much. She stopped, being engaged as much. It was kind of like a mixture of things. And I think like that home life kind of deteriorated. She gave me everything she had, but at the same time, it was hard to see her falling and different stuff. So I think that maybe would have been a little bit more towards it, like a little bit less stability in the home. And like I said, I don't think this is her fault or anything like that. I just think that it's a result of the circumstances. And with that being said, like after that year, things kind of were pretty normal for the most part. I was still playing hockey, still had good friends, won the province back-to-back years at 14 and 15, which was really cool, getting to hold up the provincial banners and do all that. We were, and that winning feeling is pretty contagious. So that was fun. Like things were okay. I started dating and all that stuff. And then at 15 years old, I had my first drink. I was out camping with my family and uncles, and he was my friend's cousin who gave me the first drink, or my cousin's cousin. Sorry, I shouldn't say friend's cousin. And it was like, how do I say, love at first sight. Would that be the best way to put it? Like
This I can see. Yeah, I kind of relate. Yes, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I drank a little bit of everything and anything that night, between beer and Hot 100 and Bacardi 151 on fire shooters. Like, it was just would have probably put anybody else on their ass, but I was able to, make it through the night. Most part, I got my hair sticking out of my hat like crazy right now. It's all right. So
I don't have that problem.
yeah, I guess he's like, come on, man. But yeah, so from there, it didn't jump like into heavy drinking for a long period of time. Like I drink maybe once a month, or it wasn't something that everybody was doing. And then as we got into high school, or I guess I was in high school in 15, but like in the later years, I started drinking more and more and more. And then when it came to like playing hockey, I stopped putting as much effort into my diet. I was paying more attention to girls, staying up late on the phone, not being well rested. Like I probably could have done something with hockey, at least gotten somewhere junior A, if I would have been a little bit more committed to it. And that's kind of a thing in my life, is that I would always kind of half-ass everything, is what I would say. just relying on maybe talent instead of effort, and you need to combine both if you want to do anything all the way through. But as I remember, like I turned 18 before I graduated, and I remember sitting there and writing my Math 30 diploma. I was out at Billy Bob's the night before. I'm like sweat dripping on my test. I'm just hung over to the gills. I don't know how I managed to scrape out a diploma, but it was through drama. I did musical theater, which is pretty cool. Like, you know, it kind of was a different combination. There wasn't too many hockey guys that are playing at a high level that are, you know, singing in the High School Musicals. I was Horton the Elephant and Seussical the Musical in grade 12, using my arm as my trunk, and it was pretty cool. But I ended up getting 38 credits from drama, so that was kind of my saving grace. I wouldn't have been able to do it without that.
Yeah, I barely scraped by graduating too, and my saving grace, I think, was a skateboarder punk, right?
Yeah,
but I passed. I killed it in art.
Oh, see, the total opposite. I couldn't draw. My stickman looked like a stickman drew him. I just brutal. So yeah, I get a little bit of a difference on that front. So yeah, I graduated, and as that went on, I just started smoking weed a lot. You know, just kind of having fun. If I ended up with a job at Played Against Sports, I was like key holder, assistant manager sort of setup. I don't not like fully entitled, but basically with what I was doing, and wasn't making a ton of money, but that was also because every check that I got, I was just drinking it away. And I remember being over at my aunt and uncle Ashley and Brad's where and I was probably complaining or asking to borrow money or something, and Brad's like, "Do you want to come make some real money?" And he was the sales manager at Uncle Ben's RV on Gasoline Alley, and I was like, "Well, sure." He's like, so he hired me as a salesman, and that was I was 19. I think the other sales guys at the dealership were like, you know, in their 40s to 50s and stuff like that. I was running around. I didn't know the front end of a fifth wheel to the back end, but always being a decent people person, I was able to, you know, figure it out eventually. But one of the things that happened there is like, at this point I already had, you know, the starts of a good alcoholism problem, right? Like it was already there. My dad had a conversation with me somewhere in those times I was over at his place for steak, and he's like, "Cody, I think I can tell that if you keep going like this, you're gonna have a problem." I was like, "Oh no, not me. I got it." Right. And here I am 16 years later.
Words.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got this. Yeah. Yeah.
You were 19?
When I started at the dealership. Yeah. I think
making decent coin at 19.
Well, yeah, like I mean, it probably took me a few months to get a real good paycheck, but yeah, you can make a decent amount of commission on an RV. There's a decent amount of markup. It all depends on how that goes through. I turned 20. I think I started in February. I was 19 in February, and I turned 20 in May. So from there, it was good. I developed a pretty good friendship with the finance manager there, and that's where I was introduced to cocaine. So through him and through that lifestyle, having a little bit more money on my hands, you know,
I do want to touch base on that. I promised myself I would never do anything hard, and I never did. It was in front of me. Try some, have some. Never did. So I want to ask you, what made you decide for the first time to try it? Were you pressured into it, or did you just say, "Screw it, let's go"? Yeah,
no, I definitely wasn't like pressured. It was something that I was like, all right, let's give her. I don't know if it was just like having your inhibitions down when you're drinking a bit, but man, that first time I tried it, like I remember I was at that Billy Bob's again back there, and I was like dancing on the dance floor, and I was like so confident. I was like sweating and, you know, looked like hell. And I was like pointing at chicks, "You're next. And I'm dancing with one girl. I'm like, oh my goodness, like what am I? And it's just so shameful to look back at, but that's something about that confidence, that feeling, you're chasing that ever and ever, or over and over again. And I say like with, like I already had the developing alcohol problem, and then adding cocaine was just like putting gasoline onto a fire. Right. So, yeah, like thank goodness for you that you never did, because like I could tell you it's something else.
I don't think I'd be sitting here today.
No, it's that I say that like about crack and heroin. I never did any of those drugs, but if I did, I definitely my susceptibility to it would have put me down harder and faster, but because it was bad enough without it. But again, like I said, addiction, it's all relative. Like depending, it all affects people badly, but. So, with the job at Uncle Ben's, I really, I started to excel about a year and a bit into it. Like, one, I'd show up. The problem is that I got so many chances, with my uncle being my boss, he didn't want to let me go. If it was anywhere else, I would have been fired, over and over again, right? Like they gave me chance after chance after chance, and I'll thank them for sticking with me through that. And I remember, like, Cody, you're great at your job when you're here. People love you. We can we can use your skills. But if it was a Saturday, if it was a Friday payday, like, you could count Cody out on Saturday, right? Like, I wasn't coming, and we were open on Sundays back then. I would work every other Sunday, and yeah, it just got to the point where it was no good. So that kind of is a perfect tie-in to, actually, I guess there was a point during the time at Uncle Ben's, I think I was about 22, because I was there for a time period of just about 4 years. And I started dating. I met a girl through mutual friends in Carstairs. We went up there, me and my buddy Morgan, and we drank one night, and I hit it off with this girl named Katrina, and she's from Saskatoon. And we dated after that night. We dated long distance for, I would say, 14 months long distance and we'd go, I'd get my weekend off a month and I'd drip out to Saskatoon, or she'd come see me when she could. And it was something that it was kind of crazy. Me and buddies, we lived pretty close. I'd go over, we'd have our phone dates, Katrina and I, but I'd slough her off, and I'd be over at the boys' house drinking beer, playing cards, and storm blow. And she had no idea that I had the cocaine problem. She knew I drank. I'm sure she wasn't blind to that. Yeah. But it eventually came time in the relationship where it was time to either crap or get off the pot. Like, we had to figure out if we were gonna get closer, or whatever. So I decided to up and move. And my uncle, remember when I was leaving the dealership, he's like, "You'll be back." And Maddie was right. So this is the first kind of attempt to run away. I thought, okay, I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna be with my girlfriend. I'm not gonna have a cocaine connection. I'll just be able to drink and things will get better. It just wasn't the case, right? I was already in deep enough that, that it just wasn't going to turn around like that. Moved out there and found out that there was quite a few differences between her and I pretty fast, right? Like, she was super attached to her family. I was a little bit I was willing to just up and move, right, for whatever. So there was those differences there. It's not necessarily bad things. I think, looking back at it, it was just, we were different people.
Things that weren't pointed out early on.
Yeah, it was more like, you see each other once a month, everything's good, right? You're still in that kind of honeymoonish phase. It doesn't wear down so fast, but it became pretty apparent that it wasn't going to work. In order to make the move, I got hired on as a door-to-door, business to business salesman for a company that was hired by Moneris and Bell in Saskatoon that used SaskTel telephones. And you would just go to these companies, "Hey, how many phone lines do you got? Can I cut your bill in half for you to switch to Bell?" And that's basically how it was. So I went into a Polaris dealership and tried to do it there, and they've got 28 phone lines, bit off way more than I could chew, because it's way more complicated than something that I could change, right? It was lots of stuff. But the sales manager of the Polaris dealership really, really liked me. I got a phone call the next day saying, "Hey, how about a job here?" So, and I was in Prince Albert, so it's about an hour and a bit away. So I started commuting to work up there, selling snowmobiles for the largest Polaris dealership in Canada. They also owned a Volkswagen and a Mazda dealership. So I kind of flipped from place to dealership. I would just get kind of plugged in wherever they needed a guy that day, sort of deal. It was a little bit strange, but it didn't take me long to drink that job away. And, missing the commuter car on the morning or whatever, right? Hungover, not getting myself up there. And, I was without a job. I remember I got a job at a Moxie's in the kitchen for 2 days, and I was going to try to hang on to my place. But I remember just breaking up with Katrina and driving back home.
2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, the kitchen job wasn't going to pay the bills as much as I needed it to, right? It was a little bit of a drop off. It probably could have made it work, but not with the drinking problem, right? So that was kind of the first run home with your tail between your legs. I ended up moving multiple times later on in my 20s, but I came back. I got the job at Uncle Ben's back, which was gracious of them. Like I said, they enjoyed having me there when I was there. But again, my addiction had just gotten worse. I'd gotten back, and then I was right back in with the same friends as I came back in. And it and it was growing. So I was at the dealership. I always had the afternoon shift. And because a lot of the other guys, they wanted to be up in the morning to get the first leads, and I didn't even really care, which I should have. It would have been helped me be more successful. But I was always able to start at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and work the 1 to 8 shift, and or 1 to 9 or whatever it was. And I remember walking in, probably hungover one of those days, and my dad is standing at the coffee machine at the dealership. And my dad, my uncle, never really seen eye to eye the best, and I was wondering why. I was like, "What the heck are you doing here?" And he's like, "Just hang on." So he goes back into the office, and not much later on, or not much longer, I was getting paged in there, right? And it was time for the first intervention, for lack of a better term. I'm sitting there, and Andy and Dave and Brad and my dad are like, "Okay, Cody, you got to get help. You're screwing up." So that was and you know what? I was like, okay.
Were you kind of maybe expecting that at all, or did it just?
No, it was, I wasn't expecting it, but I kind of knew it was going off the rails. Like I knew that I could probably use it. I don't know if I was wanting to quit, but being faced with like losing my job and.
Are you like susceptible to that? Did you surrender to that? Did you say, "Yeah, you're right. I do. I want help. I need help," or were you like, "Screw you guys"?
Oh no, I was receptive to it. I was kind of humbled by it a little bit. I was like, okay, well, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't really see another option, and I don't know if I wanted it, but I kind of knew that I needed something. But at 24 years old, like it was like, okay, I can just go away for 3 months and get this beat. So my dad took me in for about a month while I figured out it takes time to get into a treatment center, right?
Yeah.
So,
when I was drinking, I would watch that show Intervention, and I would be, I was like, "Look at these guys."
I never really watched it.
And I'm in the unfinished basement, drinking by myself.
Just judging how backwards it is, right? When you're going through it just as much. Addiction's a crazy thing, cunning, baffling, and powerful, right? It just gets us. So I ended up going to Shunda Creek, which is out west of Rocky Mountain House by Nordegg. And what an amazing place. I've been in contact with them now that I'm back on the sober path. I went out there for a weekend, and it was at that time maximum of 10 guys, 18 to 24. I turned 24 when I first got there. I think I got there in like late April or early May. And this is my first attempt. So it was a really cool idea where it was a lot of like hiking and hard camping out in the bush. Like there's no tents, there's no like, it's tarps, and you're carrying 60 pounds. You're doing complete bushwhacks. You're learning how to use a compass. And before you go on trail, you do an intention setting. And the intention setting was pretty neat. Like you would have, something in your history with addiction. So say like mine was impulsivity, where, I would just do something and then the consequences later, whatever, I'll deal with them.
Didn't think about it.
Yeah. Right. Like it was like, I got to work tomorrow morning. Yeah, so good. I'll deal with that hangover.
The hiking through the bush with that pack and stuff, like that's the type of stuff I love, but I'm sure some of the guys must have just hated it.
It was
people
so
out.
It absolutely. Yeah. It was, they vetted the guys that came out there a little bit, but for me, like being fairly athletic, like I excelled in the bush, and it was the time back at camp when you're doing the introspective work that you need to do that I didn't put any effort in, like the journaling or, like I would do the bare minimum. I played a lot of Catan. That's where I first learned how to play Catan out there. So that was a thing. Like
Catan is sprinkled out through all of our stories.
Yeah, I think the psychiatrist in my case, like each person, there's a bunch of different counselors that come out there on shift work and live and do, like we're in a bunch of old ATCO trailers and stuff. Like it's a super cool place. Like it didn't work for me at that point in time because I wasn't ready. It has nothing to do with the place. It saves a lot of guys' lives, and the community and stuff out there is just incredible. I absolutely love what they do. But like with that intention setting, the impulsivity part of it, like, so I would say, where's the opportunity on trail for you to work on this? So it would be like, okay, what would it be like for you who dives into things as hard and as fast without caring, or what the consequence? What would it be like for you to walk in the back of the pack for the whole 4 days on trail? And that drove me absolutely crazy, right? In the case, there's like, you don't know the time you're hiking. You don't know when you're going to get to camp and set up we did more than hiking. We did rock climbing, we did canoeing. There's lots of different stuff, but lots of different opportunities. So that was my first experience. And like I said, I didn't do that deep work that needs to be done. I went to my first AA meetings in Rocky Mountain House, and it was like trying to figure out what a higher power was to me. I think I called it like a hockey rink, a fresh sheet of ice or something at that point in time, which is just so far off the mark as to what a higher power can actually consist of, right? God, obviously. And that's one of the things that I think as I continued, I left the program, I went back in and did the same old things, moved back, same friends. And I wasn't ever going to quit smoking weed. I still was like, oh, I can be sober, but I'm not going to quit smoking weed. Weed's all right. But it's just not the case. And that's a consistent theme in my story too, as it goes on, is that I just wasn't willing to give that stuff up. I wasn't surrendering fully, right? I still felt the need to alter my mindset. I wasn't okay with just who I was, right?
Probably didn't know what full surrender looked like.
Well, or just a complete unwillingness.
Right.
Like I was like, no, I still want to get high.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think that was where it is, and it's so many people tried, and it was again on me, right? So that's just how my mindset was. I was 24 and I wasn't willing to give up. So I stayed sober off alcohol and cocaine for 6 months or something. That time when I came out, I made it another 3 months, and then it just went back into a relapse, right? I think I ended up back at Uncle Ben's for a little bit when I came out of there, but then after I just kind of lost that job, it all went downhill from there. So my mom had done something with some funds for me, and when I was 25, I actually had access to about $125,000 that was in some sort of like little trust for me, and I had gotten worse and worse in my addiction in that sense. Like I was doing more and more cocaine. I was flopping around from job to job. I was just kind of all over the place, not really happy with myself. And then I thought all this money is just going to change the problem or save my life. I'm going to do whatever. But I ultimately blew that money through up my nose and on other people. And I didn't have anything in 6 months. And we talk about guilt and shame being a big thing in addiction, and that wasn't something my mom had to do. That's something she chose to do for me. And I completely blew it, right? Like that feeling, I'll never forget when I woke up and my bank account was empty after that last party. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had no job. I wasn't doing anything. Still had rent to pay. I was like, what am I going to do now? And just knowing that opportunity, that could have been a house, that could have been education.
$20,000 a month.
Oh yeah. There was no end to it, right? It was, I remember being up for like 6 days on a bender the one time, right? Like not sleeping, and just, yeah, it can go fast, man. Like, wow. Especially when you're in it. Like
I've heard the number before, but just to break it down quick in my head, I'm horrible at math.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. I had bought in a car with it earlier on in my life, and then ended up getting a second car when I was in Saskatoon. I was able to pull like little bits of money out of it for certain things. So yeah, I'd started dating a girl when I got the money. Her name is Jada, and she stuck through it with me even after I blew all that. She was watching me just implode, and I was kind of stuck. I ended up getting a job at a Tony Roma's, my first serving job, and she was going to school in Calgary. She's from Revelstoke, but she was at RDC in Red Deer when we met, and then she moved up to UFC in Calgary for her degree, and then I ended up moving up to Calgary again, thinking, okay, I'm gonna get out of Red Deer, can get away from this drinking thing, be with the girl again. Continued pattern, right? Like not doing anything to change myself, just changing my surroundings. And so that relationship lasted for a little while longer, but I just couldn't get off the booze. I remember trying to go to AA meetings at some point up here. Got a job in a restaurant in downtown Calgary. Absolutely love downtown Calgary for partying. And then that restaurant industry, like it was just a lot of fun, But again, relationship ends up going to hell. I left the restaurant industry and got a job at Eastside Dodge in Calgary here selling cars. Tell him Lanny sent you.
Yeah, I bought a 2013 Ram blacked out Sport off the lot from there.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I was probably there. But it was something where I ended up getting more money. And I remember I'd started to miss more days. Jada and I were breaking up. I had my own place, and I ended up eventually losing that job. And again, I'm coming back home with my tail between my legs. So moved in with mom. This happened a couple more times. I moved out to Nelson not long after I came back this time with no like other idea other than I'm just going to go live in the mountains in Nelson, BC and smoke a lot of pot.
Hippie.
That town got small on me really fast. I drank myself into like a reputation of being an idiot out there really quickly, right? Like I pissed some people off. I blacked out and came home one night. Apparently I got in a fight with like a well-liked guy at the bar. I don't even remember what happened. So stuff like that. And again, I came back home with my tail between my legs. So again, another move. And that's not even the last one. But I came home from that time and I got into a pretty good relationship, probably the happiest I'd been. And, you know, I moved out onto the family farm with her, and it was a real like COVID hit. And it was like, okay, what are we going to do now? So, you know, I was drinking, we were out in the farm, we could still have fires, right? We weren't right in the city where it was like highly regulated. And I was starting to, the relationship was good. Like we were really good friends and close, and we understood each other. But whenever we drink, we fight. And she had a couple kids, and it just wasn't, it just didn't end well. I think one of the darker times of like losing that closeness, I felt like I was going to marry that girl. And then in the end, it was like gone again. And I remember, when her and I broke up, moved into my friend Josh's house, and, went back down the hill. I had a job at Go Dodge in Red Deer. Like I bounced from dealership to dealership to place. I wasn't holding out anything. I was trying to find happiness in other people without doing anything for myself. As I keep saying, like it wasn't me. It was me who needed to change, but I just wasn't going to see it. You know, after I'd been to that rehab, I said constantly over and over again that, you know, I don't need help. I learned everything there was to know about me. And again, I hadn't invited God into my life, or like he's there, but I'm not willing to do.
And as I understand, it was never really presented to you.
Well, it kind of was. Like my aunt and uncle would say, come to church, do whatever, but it wasn't laid out in like, this is how, this is why. It was more circumstantial. And I think with me really being at a rock bottom when I came into this place here at the Dream Center, that, and it really just kind of clicked. Okay, this is the thing you haven't tried. And it's, I mean, there's more to that. In between time, I had, so I'd lost that relationship. I ended up losing the job because I was drinking, and, you know, I went back to Shunda for a month because they offered a refresher thing. Didn't change anything. I came back into the same scenarios. I was like, oh, you can just use a breakie. And like all of this stuff just screams like trying, but not trying at the same time, right? Like half-assed. Yeah. Like it's not fully surrendering. Right. And so, I ended up having to move back in with mom. This would have been, I guess, getting closer to 3 years ago now. It's kind of crazy when I think about the time. I'm just about a year sober, which is wild. Feels like the year's been going by like crazy. So like it was mom and I'd never really drank in front of mom before, but us living together, I kind of said, okay, I'm gonna work on getting sober. It just didn't happen. You know, throughout the time I'd lived with a couple of buddies, Josh and Brayden, you know, and they were great friends to me, and my alcoholism just kind of pushed us away. I was doing stupid things all the way through, you know, just not being a good mutual part of a friendship. Moving into mom's house, I was just kind of broken. I really didn't have anybody left. I was, you know, hanging out with people that were the party friends, you know.
I know.
You know, right? They'd say, and ultimately you're kind of alone at the end of the day. And mom wasn't in the best space herself, right? She's been she had fibromyalgia and she was dealing with those depression and you know, she had a little bit of addiction from pain pills in her life. And me kind of, she gave me everything that she could to help me, but and a lot of times it was enabling me. And, you know, I took advantage of scenarios, right? We were raising dogs with my grandmother's money and with her money. And, you know, I'd end up selling the puppies and I'd keep the money from what I sold, you know, like thinking that I had some sort of stake in it, like I earned it, when it was just flat out stealing, right? I had broken myself down to the point where mom and grandma were like kind of scared of me. And I think I mentioned that on the podcast, you know, when your grandmother's scared of you, you got to take a look in the mirror, right? It's eventually mom moved into grandma's place to get away from me. I couldn't pay for the place that we were in. I ended up moving into my friend's house on the couch, and so gracious of her to let me come in with her family living there. And she took in my dog and we all coexisted for a while, but she had a massive cocaine problem too. So it was just like, oh, I'm getting high all the time, like every day. And it was just not good. And I remember I was there for probably 6 months, maybe total, and not just stuck. Like I'd lost all the resources I had. I had lost my license not too long before going in there. I got a DUI. And it was really getting close to kind of rock bottom. So I remember reaching out to Jody and Brad, my aunt and uncle that are up here in Turner Valley, my mom's younger sister who lost their son, the ones I was talking about earlier, and they're just amazing people. And they kind of offered me at different times, you know, you can always come up and work for us. They have a big framing company and their sons now own their own sort of outfit. And I didn't have anywhere else to go. And I was like, you know what? I need to really try to go stay with some people who are solid. And so they put me up, me and my dog. I lived in their barn out in, they have a beautiful place just west of Turner Valley. And it was a really, really good summer for me. But like, you know, I was sober. I stayed sober for about 5 months, but I just wouldn't quit smoking weed. I was hiding it from them, not being honest, which honesty is so key in recovery, man, in every aspect of it. Like you have to own stuff.
Necessary.
Right? It's necessary. You know, as soon as
You want to do it right.
yeah, it's a slippery slope if you start lying about things and you start hiding things, and it's just being open, right? Like, and so, you know, eventually they caught me smoking weed. They were trying to manage money for me, but I wasn't willing to be managed in that sense. Like, and eventually winter came and I couldn't stay in the barn anymore. It would be too cold outside to cook the food. Right. So I would, you know what, after 5 months, it's time to try it out on your own, and got a place. And, you know, I think 6 days later I was back in the bottle, and, I was blaming like how much money I was making and then how much more rent I had to pay is like, it was an excuse on the job. I ended up quitting on my cousins in a not very good fashion. I gave notice, but then didn't actually work out the notice. Right. I ended up getting a job at a dealership in Okotoks because I could make more money faster. There was what my thought were, and I could dig myself out of the hole that I was in that I created pretty fast. You know, it didn't take me long to find some cocaine at a bar in Okotoks, and, you know, the bender's on. But this time things got bad fast. This was like November when I started the dealership, and I by the end of it, I was like, I had a Mickey in my coat at work while I'm selling cars. You know, I was just sucking on Excel mints, like, and just getting skinny as a rail, like really, really broken down. Like it ended up with me heading to the hospital in Diamond Valley in March at 141 pounds. I was sick. I couldn't puke. I couldn't keep anything down. I was withdrawing. If I stopped drinking vodka, I couldn't do it. I was so hooked. My body just was not letting me get off of it. And guys, you'll talk like that. You need to go through detox, right? But I was in the hospital hooked up for IV for like 5 days. And my aunt and uncle decided, like, I moved out of the place I was in, and my aunt and uncle like, yeah, you can come back out here. And I couldn't keep myself straight even back out at their place. I ended up, you know, bringing vodka and drinking at night, staying out in the town, doing whatever. And, you know, I was drunk driving up and down the road one night, and I ended up running out of gas in the town of Turner Valley. And my uncle had to come get me at like 3 a.m. and just so embarrassing, man. Like just completely off the rails. So, I still had managed to hang on to the job for a little bit of time. I had a really good March selling cars through all that. I think I made like $7,000 or something like that, which isn't great, but it was a pretty good month for car sales. And it was, my plan was to buy an RV and live in it at a campground throughout the summer, and just, you know what, I can't take the help because I'm not doing it the right way. Like, just like trying to get my own space. So I was hungover on a Saturday. I made a decision to go home to leave, go into work and say, hey, I got to go to Red Deer. I'm going to go buy this RV and I'm going to set my life up, and then everything's going to be good. Which it wouldn't have been. I would have just drank at the campground all summer.
I was going to say, yeah. What do you think that would have looked like?
Yeah. Oh, no, it would have been terrible. Right. So I stopped in Airdrie at the liquor store behind the Wendy's, for anybody who knows, by the hockey rink there. I'm sure Derek knows. He grew up in Airdrie. And because I like kind of waited till 10 o'clock because I drove home with the dog, and I was talking with my dad, and I'm gonna go look at this RV, but ultimately I just was gonna get drunk, and it ended up with me never coming back to my job in Okotoks. I stayed in Red Deer, was fighting with Dad over some of the money that I had saved up with them, and then that paycheck landed, and I blew through the money in like a 3-week span. I stayed at the shitty little hotel, the Empire Inn and Suites. It's bright blue on the east side of that gasoline alley, and was so out of it. I was doing methy laced cocaine, and I was so skinny, 140 pounds, wasn't eating, was kind of confining the dog to the hotel room. I'd take her for little walks here and there, but liquor store attached to the hotel and a drug dealer on speed dial. That was really all I was doing. I spent some time in the casino, but I had like scabs all over my face. I was peeking through the blinds. I was literally, you're like paranoid. Like I'd stay up for 3 days at a time. Just completely gone, and I was still resisting. Like Jody and Brad and my dad were trying to get me to get help throughout this whole time. Like, you got to go, man. Like, this is bad.
I'm just trying to paint a picture in my head of what this looks like. I've been through Red Deer countless times, but I can't picture this blue hotel. But I'm just thinking of a dive.
Oh, it's so bad.
And then just like it's a dark picture of like your rock bottom, I guess.
Yeah, and it was for the first time ever I was faced with like, well, not really the first time, but pretty close to it. Like, I wasn't going to mom's, Dad wasn't taking me in. It was going to be the streets or get help
alone.
Yeah, like I'd missed my car insurance payment, right? Like, I had all the money, I didn't pay my car insurance, like idiot, and just was gone. So finally, when the money ran out, I couldn't pay for the hotel anymore. I remember Jody still, you need to get help. And I mentioned this earlier, like, oh, I don't need any help. I know everything there is to know about me. And she had like a few $100 of my money left. And I was like yelling and screaming at her to get it back to me. This lady my aunt who had done so much for me, who was just wanted the best for me. And I'm yelling at her for some money, and thank goodness she didn't give it to me. Because I ended up having it when I came in here, which was really good. And, you know, people were doing right by me, but I wasn't doing right by myself. So finally that all breaks down, and I say to Dad, okay, I'll go. So he said, I'll take care of my dog. He still got Jersey. I miss her to death.
Was that, I'm totally, completely done, I've had enough, or this is kind of my only option?
It was, at that time, it really felt like it was my only option. Like, I didn't really know that I was done. But after I got into the detox at Renfrew here in Calgary, we had to be up here for 7 o'clock in the morning and wait in the lineup. Dad picked me up early in the hotel, and we drove up, and I got in there. I slept.
Your dad took you to Renfrew?
Yeah.
And my dad took me to Renfrew. Yeah. I went to the same detox. I don't know if I'm jumping a hill, man, but in my testimony and telling of my story, I dove a little deep and explained what I went through at that detox. I don't know if you'd I'd like to explain how your experience was.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I slept pretty much for the first day and a half, and then, you know, I read like 4 books in the 10 days I was there. Just kind of, you know, talked to people, kept to myself a little bit. I recognized sometime in that time, like, I'm not coming back to a place like this. So whereas other people were just kind of like zombieing, okay, I'm just going to dry out and then I'm going to go back to my life, which I thought is crazy. You're in an institution like that, and you're like, you're not going to try to get more help. Like, you just want to come to this place.
I found some people talked about it like it was a normal thing. Oh yeah, this is my 9th time.
Yeah, the one guy in there was like, I've been here 30 times. Like, are you kidding me? And I guess I shouldn't look down my nose at anybody. That's not how it is. You know, everybody's got their own journey. But for me, I was like, I am not coming back. You're sleeping in a dorm with guys drying out, farting and snoring and sweating. It was just, it's a great place for people to go to do that. It's safe.
Yeah.
They put you on the right medication. So because you can die from alcohol withdrawal, you can die from all that stuff. So don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the place, but it just wasn't, I'm like, at this point in time, I don't want to come back. So
one and done for me, man.
yes,
I have to do this. I will do this. I'm determined.
yeah.
But no, I don't want to go back.
No, I dried out with Dad before a couple times. That was kind of where I went. So this is my first detox experience. And Dad had been pushing me too. He's like, you got to go get into one of these places. So I was only like a 5-day time is what I was supposed to stay, but I ended up getting accepted into Lander in Claresholm. And so they extended my stay at the detox so I could go door to door. And it went from, so I went from 5 days to 10 days. So I was in detox for total April 10th to April 20th. And so I went out to Lander, and Lander was good too. A little bit wild there. It's a co-ed treatment center, which, I don't recommend relationships in early recovery. Like it's just, you're just trying to figure yourself out. Don't try to get into that. And it may work for some people, but I don't know. There's a little bit of craziness going on there. They throw a lot of really good information at you. You learn a lot about CBT and different things. But again, about halfway through my time there, I'm like, I don't think that this is enough. Like I need to go somewhere else where there's actually like a longer term, where there's a basis where I can get a plan set up for myself. So I started applying to different places. I was on the list for Simon House. I was calling and doing the check-ins there all the time. 1835. I just that Fresh Start tried for that as well. And then Sunrise Healing Lodge. And then the last place that came under my radar was the Dream Center. And I called in to Craig, the intake coordinator, and within, I think it was about 10 days, I had a bed, and I had kind of arranged to do an extra week extension at Lander, just so I could go straight from there to here. But Craig called me on the day after I finished the program, and he was like, "Hey, I got a bed. Can you get here by this time?" So I'm like, "Well, I'm in Claresholm. Nobody's close to me." So I looked up a bus, and I ended up walking over to the gas station with my suitcase, and I hopped on the Flix bus and got off at the Anderson station, and then I was in the Dream Center. And so I think, this is kind of where God really starts, or I start really opening my eyes to him. And not really, like I refuse. I'll tell you a sec here. Like, yeah, I sat in that lobby. It was a pretty hectic day. I think there was a couple guys that were getting exited from here for whatever different reasons. The RSWs were running around. I didn't show up till like 3:00, which is like shift change, all sorts of different stuff going on, or maybe 2 or something. But I sat there looking at the guys walking by with the ankle bracelets on, all this different. I'm like, where the heck am I? Right? Like, I didn't really know what to expect. So I'm getting a tour. The RSW recovery support worker gave me a tour. He's an older, gruff fella with no teeth and a big beard, and he kind of just points and grunts and says, "Hey, this is that. This is that." I'm like,
he did my intake tour as well. He's not very enthusiastic.
No, he wasn't at all. It wasn't like the most heartening, and
it wasn't very welcoming.
No, it wasn't.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say the name, but and then I come down to the church, and I didn't know that the Dream Center was a faith-based treatment center, right? I had no idea when I got in the doors, and he's like, "So this is the church? Yeah, there's church on Sundays." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "So this is faith-based?" And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm into that. And so this is like how kind of rapid it started working for me. I remember having a phone call with my dad that night. I'm like, I think I screwed up. Like, I think this isn't the place where I need to be. And
you kind of wanted to get out of here right away.
Yeah. Well, he asked me, he's like, "Did you keep in contact with any of those other places? Can you hang on there and then leave and go somewhere else?" And that's how it's just incredible to think about where I'm at now and how I was going to leave here because I didn't want to go to a place that dealt with God. That's how like atheistic or whatever I was. Like, I just wasn't having it. But it didn't take very long. I started going to class right away the next day.
Yeah, and we're going to spend some time on this because this is a pivotal point in your life.
For sure. It's huge. Thursday morning. So Proverbs, you've heard us mention Proverbs class on this podcast. It's, we go through that book of 2,000 to 3,000 year old wisdom, whatever it is, that still applies to life every day. So today is March 19th today. So we would do Proverbs 19. And it's like one of those things where each day something pokes out to you, something can apply. It's really relevant in addiction in a lot of metaphorical ways. And Craig Hill's the head pastor here, and he's really awesome at how he communicates it, right? The classes are definitely more just plain old interesting when he's doing them. And you know, I didn't even have a Bible. I was just kind of sitting there listening, and
They give you that green binder with whatever translation that's.
it's like it's the easy reading version for guys that aren't into the faith, right? It kind of gives them
like the easiest translation of modern time you could ever think of.
Yeah, it's off-putting in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, now that we know the word a lot better. But like for me, the Proverbs was like cool. I know I grew up with a Bible. I wouldn't say I knew Proverbs by any means at all. But for me, it was Craig's delivery. Just the way he holds himself, the way he speaks, his wisdom is what, like, I was like, this is a guy I need to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's what it was for me too. And then the guys who were speaking up at that time, the guys in class that were contributing, like I like to talk, obviously. So it's one of those things, like it was Eric and it was Jordan. And, you know, they really, I started to kind of like gravitate towards them. I was like, these guys are going to be successful. These are the guys who are, you know, and they're in the faith. So I ended up, you know, we have Pastor John for Celebrate Recovery on Friday night. So Thursday's Proverbs. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad, right? Like that, there was some learning there, and it was different.
Why did you gravitate to those guys? If you, at this point, I think you're still
just because I could tell that they were going to be successful in their recovery. They were more approachable. They were, you know, a little bit less rough around the edges, I guess. And like, you know, me not having gone to jail, me not being like a, you know, like I swore a lot, but I didn't have like a kind of a gruff outlook, or well, I don't know what the words I'm looking for on that sense, but it just, those are the guys who I was gonna.
You were just drawn
more towards, 100%. So yeah, Pastor John, Celebrate Recovery, another great teaching on that night. No idea what it was at this point. Still didn't have the Bible, but it's a mandatory thing, and I was there, and it's like, okay, this is all right. And then Alpha on Saturday night. So Alpha's over at Cocoa Brooks here in Calgary. It's a pretty cool meeting. That's like a video series. You watch a movie each time, and then you have a discussion about what's going on. They feed you an amazing home cooked meal before you do it. Harold and Diane are just so great. They're listeners of the podcast, and they come to our Brotherhood of Christ meeting, and just absolute pillars in our community, and you know, people that would give you the shirt off their back if they could. And that's, you know, they really
called her Diane at the band, because she would pick me up from the building here every Thursday night to go feed the homeless downtown.
Absolutely, right? Just so great. So Diane gave me my first Bible that night, and then the next day, Sunday morning, Craig's preaching in church, and you know, invites us to, you know, stand up if you feel like the Lord's been missing in your life. And there I was, standing up and giving myself to God in church, and I was like, it's just such a mind-blowing, quick, happened so fast, right?
I was there.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, it was. I was like, I just couldn't really, I can't really say why or how, but something just clicked.
Well, everything happened so fast.
Yeah, and then it was, you know, it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then it was really leaning into it and trying to figure out and learn and you know, go through it over the next 90 days in this program. And then you guys started Brotherhood of Christ, and you know, going into that meeting. And
is that when you would say you would full surrender?
Yeah, like I never had like a, you know, praying in or moment. It was church that day. I think I was like, yeah, this is what it's going to be. And
when I fully surrendered, when I was in this building, I knew what I was surrendering to, but I don't, like, you didn't. That was like a huge.
Yeah, for me it was
faith.
Yeah, I think it was just like, okay, I like the vibes of the people that are in this, and it just, I really remember the thought process of being like, this is the thing you haven't tried, this, and you've been stuck in this cycle of ups and downs and just beating yourself up for 16 years. Like, let's give God a shot here. And
what can you lose?
Literally, I think we've talked about that.
Yeah,
right. You've got with one thing, you've got everything to lose and nothing to gain. That's like addiction and not going with God. But with God, you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. Right. So it sounds simple, right? And it sounds kind of crazy and haphazard. Like if you're an atheist and you're listening to this, which I doubt you are, but hopefully you do. It's all of a sudden things started to change once I started praying over my character defects. I recognized that, I struggled with the need for validation from other people. I struggle with codependency. I wasn't happy with who I was. I felt that guilt and that shame, and I just didn't like the things that I had done in my past. But, once you get to the point of believing and having faith in God, you get redemption from that. And, you get to, if you're lucky, you have the opportunity to be baptized, and you can wash all that stuff away and you can start fresh. It's not like it changes everything, but it's a public declaration to God, and it just helps you take that next step.
We as well got baptized on the same day together.
Elbow River.
Yeah, it was a great day.
So
when did you see or feel like it give you hope for the future, that this is the right way, this is the truth, and this is what's gonna keep me on the straight and narrow? Like, this is the thing that's gonna save me.
So I guess let me try to lay this out in the best way I possibly can. Like, if it's just left up to me, if I'm only going to end up letting myself down, I'll do it 95 out of 100 times. But with God, I'm letting him down. In that sense, the thought of like eternity versus the other option is crazy. And you're supposed to do addiction for yourself before others, but God doesn't fall into that others category, right? Like, I started to build the value in myself. I started to see, I got relief through prayer on those things that I struggled with. And things started to get a little bit easier. I started looking at you got to love other people part of things, and realizing that's.
And you thought, man, this isn't going to be easy.
No, man, at the start it was like, oh gosh, this guy sucks. Like, how am I gonna do this? And it wasn't easy. But man, like today, sitting here 11 and a half months clean,
you probably have a completely different mindset.
It's gotten so much easier. Now I struggle with like what we talked about on last week's episode. I'm worried about if I'm doing enough for God, not if I'm doing enough. It's just for other things. It's like, I've got so much good things on the go. I get praised for the work that I'm doing around here often. I got lots of people that are pumping my tires, and I'm not struggling or doing terrible things that are bringing my self-worth down. Now I'm building myself back up, and it's all thanks to him. All right. So yeah, it's been really, really crazy. And then, eventually I ended up being asked to be a part of the Brotherhood leadership, and I'm still so thankful for Derek and Jordan for asking me, because it's been another journey, another option, an opportunity for me to level up and take some more responsibility on. Like, we had a meeting last night. It was just great.
So good
Last night.
So good. I'm going to
hit me with some questions.
I'm going to hit you here because we're going to talk about the Brotherhood of Christ.
Yeah.
A meeting which God put on me to start with Shingy, and it pyramided out with to Jordan and Eric. And then you and Joe, we brought on to the leadership. And because we saw the work that you were doing, you were digging in deep, you were growing in faith. It was clear that you weren't wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So how important we call it the brotherhood, and we really truly try to make it a brotherhood. How important is that to you to have here and around you?
Oh, it's everything. The opposite of addiction is connection, and that connection with God first, and then having strong brothers like you and Jordan and Joe, and all of the other guys that are a part of our team, right? Like, it's just such I don't know how to explain it. Like, you really it's a safe space to bear all, really, to get into the little things, the character defects, the stuff that goes through it. But you can't do this alone. There's not enough joy in recovery, almost in brotherhood and stuff. Sometimes it can suck, like in like how hard it is to find good things. Like it's not easy. Your brain doesn't go back to normal for years after you've done what we've done to ourselves. And that's why that connection piece, that time spent playing board games or playing disc golf, or, just having good conversations, that's where you get your dopamine from. And that connection, and that, that
it's the bonding, it's the connection,
the pillars,
the iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. Making each other better, calling each other on our own crap, and
being held accountable.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah. It's all the difference, right? Like if you're out there and you're in recovery and you're struggling, first of all, come to our meeting. But second of all, or like even not first of all to our meeting, just first of all, try to find some guys that are doing it and immerse yourselves in, ask questions, build friendships. Because if you go back out there and you left onto your own devices, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I think a lot of people have experienced it. It's very easy to fail, right? So you really have to have a good basis put in to succeed.
I'm going to go back. We did mention our brother Eric's name.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about him much on this podcast. He was very instrumental in this building.
Yes, he was.
He was a top dog leader with us. And we lost him. He, I think, took you under his wing.
Yeah, he did.
And unfortunately, he left pretty suddenly, and that was a big blow for all of us. Do you want to feel like, were you betrayed? Do you feel shocked? Obviously, it was a big blow for all of us.
Yeah,
but for you probably more, because I felt like he really was working on you and with you.
Yeah, I think we'd gotten closer to the point where we were. I mean, that he's on fire doing everything that he was doing, but at the same time, he started to slip from being as involved in his leadership role to being involved in our game nights to, it was a girl, man. And that's, like we say terrible things, for lack of a better term. Under every skirt, there's a slip. And, and it's vulgar and whatnot, but in recovery, you can fall so fast. And it was just like, he just started talking to this girl, and then he went up there for the one time and he's gone. He didn't come back.
Never came back.
And
I've been here long enough. You've been here long enough. It's a very common denominator for people to slip.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Cause you haven't built up that foundation in yourself, and then you start relying on somebody else. And then what happens when that falls apart? You're left with a half fixed version of you to rely on. So with Eric, it was like, I was disappointed, man. He had so much good going for him, but honestly, I think it made me recognize even further that I needed to continue on doing what I'm doing.
It didn't deter you?
No,
okay.
No, I think it had the opposite effect.
Because I know I was pretty hurt.
I wasn't happy for sure. Right. I was hurt by it. I was upset, but it wasn't, I couldn't let somebody else's actions determine what was going to go on with my own recovery.
We look forward to having him. He's going to be in the studio, and we're going to probably,
I'm sure he'll be in here.
We're going to put him under the microscope.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, we'll see
but he's a great guy.
Yeah. He's such an amazing guy. I'm so glad that he's coming back.
Welcome with open arms for this guy.
Yeah.
I like this here. I didn't think about this, but when you were approached to join the leadership of the Brotherhood of Christ meeting, how did that feel, man? Were you surprised? Were you like, why me? I'm not ready. Let's go. Because you were like a baby, little baby Christian.
I think there was part of me who was like, yeah, let's go, let's do it, because that's just who I am. But there was also like, when it came time to like do a testimony and get, into a point where you're explaining and teaching different things, and a little bit, I was overwhelmed by that part of it. took some time to kind of grow into it. I think now it's going quite a bit better in that sense. Like I still don't have a big basis of knowledge of the Bible, not as good as a Joe or as a Derek, or, you know, like I got to work more on that myself. That's the one thing, but it's the recovery part of things. I've got it down packed with, like, not like I've got sobriety in hand, but I understand what to talk about, and that relationship between faith and addiction and how it can be saved. And that's where I felt like it was okay. I was excited to do it.
Yeah. Well, absolutely glad you said yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've become a pillar here in the building. Glad to have you on board.
It feels like that wasn't very long ago, but it was very long ago now. Like, I mean, it was probably 7 months ago, maybe even longer. It's kind of crazy.
Probably about right.
Yeah.
I think we asked you fairly early on, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't very long because, like, I would have graduated in August. And I don't know when Eric left, but
we got some of my own questions here. We'll just stick with the topic of you in the building. And I said you're a pillar in the building because you are. This job you've got here that you're killing it at. Do you find it fulfilling, or is it a grind? Because I know you work really hard and you work long hours, but does it fill you?
Yeah, it does. It's you say it's a grind. It's not always a grind. Like it comes and flows, like depending on the size of the group of volunteers I got to prepare for, or what's going on in the building. It is fulfilling because I get to show people that are coming in that from outside the building who don't know what the Dream Center is. I've had somebody who thought this was like a mattress manufacturing place because of the Dream Center, right? Like that's how little people know, or even more so
on the train.
Yeah,
back here they see the sign, the Dream Center, and they think it might be a sleep
center or something like that. Yeah, like for having, like, I get the opportunity to really show that this place changes people's lives and keeps me rooted in my recovery, and I get to really talk about recovery, and even on a outside of the Dream Center part of it, I can really lay out to people what addiction is, and we're just normal people that struggle with these things. Like, it's not like we're a bunch of hoodlums that are gonna steal your purse and run away. Like,
all walks of life, you name it. We had child actors here, as doctors, lawyers, right?
All sorts of different things, right? Like, it's not addiction doesn't discriminate, so why do people discriminate on addiction? Right? Like, I don't know what the answer is, but I get to talk about that, and then me being able to tell my story or have certain guys tell their stories to groups. It's pretty fulfilling in that sense, and then it's also, like I said, keeps me rooted. I get to take the elevator down to work and just start my day off like that. I'm very supported by my leadership team here, and they just want me to succeed, and they tell me how great I'm doing almost every day. And that's I don't make the most money in the world, but I make enough, and it's great for where I'm at in my recovery. It really keeps me grounded.
That's awesome. And I'm so proud of you, man.
Thanks.
Watching you grow from the day you stood up in church and got saved, to getting baptized, to getting the job here, to digging into the word, prayer, faith. The work you do in this building, everyone sees it, man, and it's so good. I'm so proud of you. You gave me a gift card today for helping out and volunteering my time. You wrote a note in there. It was really touching. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, no problem.
And I want to finish off. I have this Bible here for a reason, and I want you to read your favorite verse.
Yeah, man.
And tell me why.
Yeah, I don't have it. It's like repetitive in a couple of things, so I never have it quite memorized. It's like 2 Corinthians 12:10. I know that.
I was timing you to see how quick you would find it.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So that is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, and in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So the reason that I like this verse so much,
and that's
the 2 Corinthians 12, verse 10. I just love the "for when I am weak, when I am strong" part of it, and I like all that other stuff, because now I know that when stuff's not going my way, when things aren't easy, things are difficult, whether you're struggling with just getting through a day. Everybody doesn't have good days all the time, right? That's just not how life is. So those are the times that God's working on me. Those are the times that I'm going to grow. Those are the opportunities that are put in front of me. If it's hard, it's generally something that there's a growth opportunity, and there's something you can see that coming out on the other side of this, if I really pay attention to what's going on, whether it's just struggling mentally, this sucks, but having that outlook, okay, but what can I gain from this instead of playing the victim in that moment? That's what that verse speaks to me. So, it doesn't, when things are tough, you're leveling up. I've been saying this level up thing. I'm all about it. I think that you got to level up every day in recovery, and every day is going to present you with these opportunities. So just having that outlook is the way it is for me.
Awesome. Once again, you're on a great path, man.
Thanks, bro.
Keep giving her. I'm proud of you, and I love you, bro.
Love you too, man. So that's going to be the end. Happy to finally have this recorded, and I hope you guys enjoy. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions of your own. Share the word. I put this out there in hopes that somebody else can listen to the story and find their way from the pit to their purpose, really, right? Like, shameless plug on the name, but it's just, God's the answer, guys.
4510 McLeod Trail, Calgary. Brotherhood of Christ meeting.
Wednesday night,
6:30. So it'd be great to see someone walk in that door.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to Pit to Purpose.